Now I will tell you, you and the thirst come and sit in the Jeta Grove, and look again at the groves and gardens, as far as the sun and moon, and at all the various different appearances, and it is certain that the seeing essence is not among whatever you point to. You can go ahead and reveal what among these things is not your seeing. Ananda said, I see clearly all over this Jeta Grove, and I do not know what in the midst of it is not my seeing. Why? If trees are not the seeing, why do I see trees? If trees are the seeing, then what becomes of trees? The same is true of everything up to and including emptiness. If emptiness is not the seeing, why do I see emptiness? If emptiness is the seeing, then what becomes of emptiness? As I consider it again and reveal the subtlest aspects of the myriad appearances, none is not my seeing. The Buddha said, so it is, so it is. Then all in the great assembly who had not reached the stage beyond learning were stunned upon hearing these words of the Buddha, and could not perceive where the meaning began or ended. They were agitated and taken aback at the same time, having lost what they had adhered to. The first came on knowing they were anxious and uneasy in spirit, let pity rise in his heart, and he consoled Ananda and everyone in the great assembly. Good people, what the unsurpassed Dharma King says is true and real. He speaks things as they are. He does not deceive. He does not lie. He is not Maskari Roshaliputra with his forecast of non-dying theories that are deceptive and confusing. You should consider this attentively. It is no disgrace to pity or to implore. Then Manjushri, son of the Dharma king, took pity on the four assemblies, rose from his seat in the midst of the great assembly, bowed at the Buddha's feet, placed his palms together respectfully, and said to the Buddha, Wound honored one, the great assembly has not awakened, so the principle of the first commons twofold disclosure of the essence of seeing as being both form and emptiness, and as being neither of them. Wound honored one, if the causal form, emptiness, and other phenomena mentioned above were the same, there should be an indication of its distance. And if they were not the same, there should be nothing visible to be seen. Now we do not know what is meant, and this is why we are alarmed and concerned. It is not that our good rules from former lives are deficient. We only hope the first common will have the great compassion to reveal exactly what all the things are and what the seeing essence is. Is it that there is no question of is or is not in all of this? The Buddha told Manjushri and the great assembly. To the first commons and the great Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions who dwell in this samadhi, seeing and the conditions of seeing, as well as the characteristics of thought, are like flowers in space, fundamentally non-existent. This seeing and its conditions are originally the wonderful pure bright substance of Bodhi. How can one speak of is and is not? Manjushri, I now ask you, take yourself as an example, Manjushri. Is there still another Manjushri? Is there a Manjushri who is and a Manjushri who is not? So it is, world honored one. I am truly Manjushri. There is no Manjushri who is. Why? If there was still another Manjushri who is Manjushri, there would be two Manjushris. But it is not that now I am not Manjushri. In fact, neither of the two characteristics is and is not exist. The Buddha said this is not only the case with the seeing, the basic substance of wonderful Bodhi, but also with emptiness and mundane objects. They are basically the projections or manifestations of the wonderful brightness of unsurpassed body, the pure, perfect, true mind. They are falsely taken to be form and emptiness, as well as hearing and seeing. Just as with the second moon, which one is the moon and which is not the moon. Manjusri, there is only one true moon, and within it there is not a moon that is, or a moon that is not. Therefore, now as you contemplate the seeing and the mundane things together, all the things you disclose are called false thoughts. You cannot transcend is and is not from within them. With the true essence, the wonderful, enlightened, bright nature, you can get beyond trying to point out or not point out. Ananda said to the Buddha, World-honored one, it is truly as the Dharma King has said, the condition of enlightenment pervades the 10 directions, clear, everlasting, and by nature neither produced nor extinguished. How does it differ, then, from the first Brahma Kapila's teaching of the profound truth, or from the teaching of the ascetics who throw ashes on themselves, or from the other externalist sects that say there is a real self which pervades the 10 directions? Also in the past, the world-honored one gave a lecture on Mount Lanka explaining the principle thoroughly for the sake of great wisdom Bodhisattva and others. Externalist sects always speak of spontaneity. I speak of causes and conditions, which is an entirely different principle. Now, as I contemplate the nature of enlightenment as spontaneous, as neither produced nor extinguished, and as apart from all empty falseness and inversion, it seems to have nothing to do with your causes and conditions or the spontaneity advocated by others. Would you please enlighten us on this point, lest we should fall into deviant paths, thus enabling us to obtain the true mind, the bright nature of wonderful enlightenment? The Buddha told Ananda, now I have instructed you with such expediency in order to tell you the truth, yet you do not awaken to it but mistake it for spontaneity. Ananda, if it definitely was spontaneous, you should be able to distinguish the substance of the spontaneity. Now you look into the wonderful bright seeing. What is itself? Does the seeing take bright light as itself? Does it take darkness as itself? Does it take emptiness as itself? Does it take solid objects as itself? Ananda, if itself consists in light, you should not see darkness. Moreover, if it takes emptiness as the substance of itself, you should not see solid objects. Continuing in the same way, if it takes all dark appearances as itself, then when it is light, the seeing nature is cut off and extinguished, and how can you see light? Ananda said, I am certain that the nature of this wonderful seeing is not spontaneous. Now I discern that it is produced from causes and conditions, but I do not yet have it clear in my mind. I now ask the first common how this idea is consonant with the nature of causes and conditions. The Buddha said, you say it is causes and conditions. I ask you again, because you are now seeing, the seeing nature manifests. Is it because of light that the seeing exists? Is it because of darkness that the seeing exists? Is it because of emptiness that the seeing exists? Is it because of solid objects that the seeing exists? Ananda, if light brings it into existence, you should not see darkness, and if it exists because of darkness, you should not see light. It is the same with emptiness and solid objects. Moreover, Ananda, does the seeing derive from the condition of light? Does the seeing derive from the condition of darkness? Does the seeing derive from the condition of emptiness? Does the seeing derive from the condition of solid objects? Ananda, if it exists because of the condition of emptiness, you should not see solid objects. If it exists because of the condition of solid objects, you should not see emptiness. It is the same with light and darkness. Thus you should know that the essential enlightened wonderful brightness is due to neither causes nor conditions, and it does not arise spontaneously. It is not that which is not spontaneous. It is not that it is not, nor is it that it is not not. It is not that which is or is not. Any Dhamma is that which is apart from all characteristics. Now in the midst of Dhammas, how can you use your mind to make distinctions that are based on worldly sophistries, terms, and characteristics? That is like grasping at empty space with your hand. You only succeed in tiring yourself out. How could empty space possibly yield to your grasp? Ananda said to the Buddha, if the nature of the wonderful enlightenment has neither causes nor conditions, then why does the world-honored one always tell the bhikshus that the nature of thing derives from the four conditions of emptiness, brightness, the mind, and the eyes? What does that mean? The Buddha said, Ananda, what I have said about all the worldly causes and conditions has nothing to do with the primary meaning. Ananda, I ask you again. People in the world say, I can see. What is meant by seeing? What is not seeing? Ananda said, due to the light of the sun, moon, and lamps, people in the world can see all kinds of appearances. That is called seeing. If it were not for these three kinds of light, they would not be able to see. Ananda, if it is called not seeing, when there is no light, you should not see darkness. If in fact you do see darkness, which is none other than the lack of light, how can you say there is an absence of seeing? Ananda, if when it is dark, you call it not seeing because you do not see light, then since it is now light and you do not see the characteristic of darkness, it should also be called not seeing. Thus the two characteristics would both be called not seeing. Although these two characteristics replace one another, your seeing nature does not lapse for an instant. Thus you can know that there is seeing in both cases. How then can you say there is no seeing? Therefore, Ananda, you should know that when you see light, the seeing is not the light. When you see darkness, the seeing is not the darkness. When you see emptiness, the seeing is not the emptiness. When you see solid objects, the seeing is not the solid objects. Having realized these four meanings, you should also know that when you see your seeing, the seeing is not the seeing to be seen. Since the former seeing is beyond the latter cannot reach it. That being the case, how can you say that your absolute intuitive perception has something to do with the causes and conditions or spontaneity, or that it has something to do with mixing and uniting? You narrow-minded South-hearers are so inferior and ignorant that you are unable to penetrate through to the purity of the characteristic of reality. Now I will teach you. You should consider it well and do not become weary or negligent on the wonderful road to Bodhi. Ananda said to the Buddha, World-honored one, it is still not clear in my mind what the Buddha, the world-honored one, has explained for me and for others like me about causes and conditions, spontaneity, and the characteristic of mixing and uniting, and the absence of mixing and uniting. And now to hear further that to see seeing is not seeing adds yet another layer of confusion. Humbly, I hope that with your vast compassion, you will bestow upon us the great wisdom eye so as to show us the bright, pure, enlightened mind. After saying this, he wept, made obeisance, and waited to receive the holy instruction. Then the world honored one asked pity for Ananda, and the great assembly began to explain extensively the wonderful path of cultivation of all samadhis of the great Dharani. He said to Ananda, although you have a strong memory, it only benefits your wide learning, but your mind has not yet understood the subtle secret contemplation and illumination of shamatha. Listen attentively now as I explain it for you in detail. And may this explanation cause all those of the future who have outflows to obtain the fruition of Bodhi. Ananda, all living beings turn on the wheel of rebirth in this world because of two upside down discriminating false views. Wherever these views arise, revolution through the cycle of appropriate karma occurs. What are the two views? The first consists of the false view based on living beings' individual karma. The second consists of the false view based on living beings' collective share. What is meant by false views based on individual karma? Ananda. It is like a person in the world who has red cataracts on his eyes, so that at night he alone sees around the lamp a circular reflection composed of layers of 5 colors. What do you think? Is a circle of light that appears around the lamp at night the lamp's colors, or is it the seeing's colors? Ananda, if it is the lamp's colors, why is it that someone without the disease does not see the same thing, and only the one who is diseased sees the circular reflection? If it is the thing's colors, then the thing has already become colored. What then is the circular reflection the diseased the person sees to be called? Moreover, Ananda, if the circular reflection is in itself a thing apart from the lamp, then it would be seen around the folding screen, the curtain, the table, and the mats. If it has nothing to do with the seeing, it should not be seen by the eyes. Why is it that the person with cataracts sees the circular reflections with his eyes? Therefore, you should know that, in fact, the colors come from the lamp, and the diseased seeing brings about the reflection. Both the circular reflection and the faulty seeing are the results of the cataract. But that which sees the diseased film is not sick. Thus, you should not say that it is the lamp or the seeing, or that it is neither the lamp nor the seeing. It is like a second moon often seen when one presses on one's eye while looking up into the sky. It is neither substantial nor a reflection because it is an illusory vision caused by the pressure exerted on one's eye. Hence, a wise person should not say that the second moon is a form or not a form, nor is it correct to say that the illusory second moon is apart from the seeing or not apart from the seeing. It is the same with the illusion created by the diseased eyes. You cannot say it is from the lamp or from the seeing. Even less can it be said not to be from the lamp or the seeing. What is meant by the false view of the collective share? Ananda in Jambudvipa, besides the waters of the great seas, there is level land that forms some 3,000 continents, east and west, throughout the entire expanse of the great continent. There are 2,300 large countries. In the other smaller continents in the seas, there may be 2 or 300 countries, or perhaps 1 or 2, or perhaps 30, 40, or 50. Ananda, suppose that among them there is one small continent where there are only two countries. The people of just one of the countries together experience the evil conditions. On that small continent, all the people of that country see all kinds of inauspicious things. Perhaps they see two suns, perhaps they see two moons with circles, or a dark haze, or girdle ornaments around them, or comets, shooting stars, ears on the sun or moon, rainbows, secondary rainbows, and various other evil signs. Only the people in that country see them. The living beings in the other country from the first do not see or hear anything unusual. Ananda, I will now go back and forth comparing these two matters for you to make both of them clear. Ananda, in the case of the living being's false view of individual karma, by which he sees the appearance of a circular reflection around the lamp, the appearance seems to be real, but in the end, what is seen comes into being because of the cataracts on the eyes. The cataracts are the result of the weariness of the seeing rather than the products of form. However, the essence of seeing which perceives the cataracts is free from all diseases and defects. For example, do not use your eyes to look at the mountains, the rivers, the countries, and all the living beings. They are all brought about by the disease of your seeing, contracted since time without beginning. Seeing and the conditions of seeing seem to manifest what is before you. Originally, my enlightenment is bright. The seeing and conditions arise from the cataracts. Realize that the seeing arises from the cataracts. The enlightened condition of the basically enlightened bright mind has no cataracts. That which is aware of the faulty awareness is not diseased. It is the true perception of seeing. How can you continue to speak of feeling, hearing, knowing, and seeing? Therefore, you now see me and yourself and the world and all the 10 kinds of living beings because of a disease in the sea. What is aware of this disease is not diseased. The true essential thing by nature has no disease. Therefore, it is not what we normally call seeing. Ananda, let us compare the false views of those living beings' collective share with the false views of the individual karma of one person. The individual person with the diseased eyes is the same as the pupil of that one country. He sees circular reflections erroneously brought about by a disease of the seeing. The beings with a collective share see inauspicious things. In the midst of their karma of identical views arise pestilence and evils. Both are produced from a beginningless falsity in the seeing. It is the same in the 3,000 continents of Jambudvipa, throughout the 4 great seas, and in the Saha world, and throughout the 10 directions. All countries that have outflows and all living beings are the enlightened, bright, wonderful mind without outflows. Because of the false, diseased conditions that are seen, heard, felt, and known, they mix and unite in false birth. In false birth, mix and unite in false death. If you can leave far behind all conditions which mix and unite and those which do not mix and unite, then you can also extinguish and cast out the causes of birth and death, and obtain perfect Bodhi, the nature which is neither produced nor extinguished. It is the pure, clear, basic mind, the everlasting fundamental enlightenment. Ananda, although you have already realized that the wonderfully bright basic enlightenment does not by nature come from causes and conditions and is not by nature spontaneous, you have not yet understood that the enlightened source is produced neither from mixing and uniting, nor from a lack of mixing and uniting. Ananda, now I will once again make use of the mundane objects before you to question you. You now hold that false thoughts mix and unite with the causes and conditions of everything in the world, and you wonder whether certification to Bodhi might arise from mixing and uniting. Accordingly, right now, does the wonderful pure seeing essence mix with light? Does it mix with darkness? Does it mix with emptiness? Or does it mix with solid objects? If it mixes with light, look further at the light. What place there in the light before you is combined with the seeing. If you can distinguish the characteristic of seeing, what does it look like in combination? If it is not the seeing, how can you see the light? If it is the seeing, how can the seeing see itself? If it is certain that the seeing is complete, what room will there be for it to mix with the light? If the light is complete, it cannot unite and mix with the seeing. If seeing is different from light, then both the nature and the light lose their identity when they combine. Since the combination results in the loss of the light and the nature, it is meaningless to say it mixes with light. The same principle applies to its mixing with darkness, with emptiness, or with solid objects.